What if I told you there's a rookie who shoots with almost the same calmness, the same mechanics, and the same confidence as one of the best shooters in NBA history? No, I'm not talking about Steph Harden or Klay. I'm talking about Kon Knueppel. And while most of the audience is still sleeping on him, the stats say we might be watching the most underrated shooter of his generation. But is he really the next Klay Thompson? Or is he just another good rookie who's going to remain a role player? When you watch Kon Knueppel, the first thing you notice isn't explosiveness. It's not elite athleticism. It's not flashy dribbling. It's calmness. The way he comes off screens, the way he sets his feet, the way the ball leaves his hands. Quick, clean, and without panic. It's a style that irresistibly reminds you of Klay Thompson in his early days with Golden State. But let's not be subjective. Let's talk numbers. When we talk about shooters who have changed the way we watch basketball, one name almost always stands out: Klay Thompson. And now the question arises, is it possible that the NBA, or at least the future NBA landscape, is getting a player who, in terms of profile, mechanics, and mentality, reminds us of him? Today we're talking about Kon Knueppel and whether his numbers and style of play truly justify the comparison to one of the best shooters of the modern era. Looking at his season at Duke, the first thing that immediately stands out is his efficiency and maturity on offense. As a freshman, he averaged around 14 points per game, shooting approximately 40% from three, and that on a solid volume of attempts. This isn't the stat line of a player taking 2 open corner threes per game. This is someone actively involved in the offense, moving without the ball, using screens, and constantly finding space. What's even more impressive is his balance. Alongside scoring, he adds a few rebounds and assists per game, showing that he's not just a one-dimensional shooter. Now let's put this into the context of Klay's rookie season in the NBA. In 2011-12, Thompson averaged 12.5 points per game, shot 41% from three, and attempted about 4 threes per game. In a 66-game lockout season, he made 166 three-pointers, which was already a serious indicator of his shooting potential. But what's important is this: Klay at that point was not yet the Klay we know today. He wasn't a 4-time champion, hadn't scored 37 points in a single quarter, hadn't put up 60 points in 29 minutes. He was a young shooter with elite mechanics and enormous potential. When we compare their profiles, several similarities stand out. The first is mechanics. Kon's shot is quick, compact, and repeatable. He releases the ball high with minimal extra movement, one of the key traits of elite shooters. Klay, throughout his career, arguably had the cleanest catch and shoot motion in the league. No lowering the ball, no hesitation, no extra dribbles. Knueppel already shows this pattern: catch, set your feet, release. No panic. The second thing is movement without the ball. One of the reasons Klay Thompson is so dangerous isn't just his percentage, it's the way he gets to his shot, constantly running through screens, changing direction, forcing the defense to make split-second decisions. Knueppel at Duke shows a similar instinct. He doesn't stand still waiting for the action to come to him. He actively frees himself from defenders, uses stagger screens, and knows how to find the open pocket in the defense. This is basketball IQ, something you don't see just in percentages, but in the details. However, there are differences, and they're important if we want a serious analysis. Klay Thompson, at 6 feet 6 inches with long arms, entered the league as a plus defender on the perimeter. He very quickly became a player capable of guarding the best opposing guards. With Knueppel, the defensive ceiling is still uncertain. He's not an explosive athlete. His lateral movement is decent, but not elite. This means that in the NBA, he'll need to find a way to avoid becoming a target in pick-and-roll situations. Another difference is the context of the game. Klay had the luxury of playing alongside guys like Curry, which meant the defense could never focus solely on him. Knueppel in college often had to create his own space and make shots under pressure. That can actually be an advantage in development, as it forces him to make faster decisions and shoot over defenders. But in the NBA, the quality of defense is on a completely different level. Statistically speaking, if a college player shoots around 40% from three on a significant volume, history shows there's a high probability he'll at least become a solid NBA shooter. Elite shooters usually display a stable percentage and confidence in their shot very early in their careers. Knueppel already shows this pattern. His true shooting percentage is above average for a college guard, and his shot selection is mature. He rarely forces difficult attempts unnecessarily, but the key question for this video isn't whether he's a good shooter. That's obvious. The question is whether he has a ceiling similar to Klay Thompson. To reach that level, he'll need to add a few elements: more physicality, better off-ball play against professional athletes, and consistency over 82 games. The NBA season is a marathon, not a sprint. Percentages in March at college aren't the same as percentages in February after 60 NBA games. What works in his favor is mentality. The best shooters have short memories. A miss doesn't affect the next attempt. With him, you can already see that calmness, no drama in body language, no quitting after 2 missed threes. This is a trait Klay had from day one. So, is it fair to call him the next Klay Thompson? Maybe it's too early, but it's completely legitimate to say that based on his shooting profile, mechanics, and off-ball movement, he reminds us of an early version of Klay, the version that was just hinting at what was to come. The difference between a good shooter and a historic shooter comes down to longevity, health, and the ability to be equally dangerous in the playoffs as in the regular season. If Knueppel can transfer his college efficiency to the NBA level, if his percentages stay around 38 to 40% on a higher volume, and if he becomes at least a solid defender, then we won't be talking about a comparison. We'll be talking about a legitimate heir to the archetype of the elite 3-and-D guard with all-star potential. And that's what makes this story so compelling. We're not talking about a spectacular dunker or a player who dominates physically. We're talking about a pure shooter. And NBA history has already taught us that when a shot looks this clean at a young age, it's very often not a coincidence. It's a sign of something much bigger. Kon Knueppel has a very interesting trait. His confidence doesn't come across as loud or theatrical, but it's consistent. He's not the type of player who will jump, yell, or taunt the crowd after a made three, but he's also not the type to hang his head after a miss. His body language is almost identical regardless of the result. That's a serious indicator of mental stability. Now let's think about Klay Thompson. Klay is perhaps the best example of a cold-blooded shooter in league history. Make 3 in a row, no emotion. Miss 5, no change in expression. That's a rare trait. Most young players react to a miss. They either rush the next shot out of nerves or they become passive. With Knueppel, what you notice is that a miss doesn't change his aggressiveness. If he misses an open 3, he takes the next one just the same. No hesitation, no glancing at the bench for validation. That's the shooter's mindset, and shooters live off short memory. An even more important detail is how he behaves in big games. In high-pressure matchups against strong opponents with faster tempo, more contact, and less space, that's when the difference between a good shooter and a true competitor shows. With him, you notice he doesn't disappear from the game, he doesn't shy away from the ball, he doesn't stop moving without it. That's huge, because many young players become passive when they feel the intensity. Confidence isn't measured just by made shots. The measure is, do you demand the ball when the game is close? Do you come off screens with the same speed in the final 2 minutes? Are you willing to take a tough shot without fear of missing? Great shooters have one thing in common. They believe in the next shot more than the last one. It's a mental framework that develops over years, but in some players it's visible early. With Knueppel, that pattern is already emerging. Of course, the NCAA and the NBA are not the same world. Playoff pressure, full arenas, Game 7s, that's a completely different dimension. But the mental patterns a player shows at 19 or 20 often indicate how they'll handle it later. If we look purely at his psychological profile, he has 3 things necessary to become an elite shooter. First, stable body language. Second, aggressiveness that doesn't depend on the previous shot. Third, the willingness to take the next shot without hesitation. And that's why the comparison to Klay isn't just about percentages. It's not just about mechanics. It's about the way he behaves as a shooter, because at the end of the day, stats give you numbers. But mentality gives you a career.